Welcome to For the Culture, the center point of art and entrepreneurship. Today, I have a really special guest. His name is Steve. He's a painter that I've come across actually through my girlfriend. How's it going, man?
Pretty good.
That's good. So, your Instagram handle is?
Creativisteve.
Okay.
Yeah.
There you go. Where'd you come up with that?
Well, I didn't start with that. I had other ones, like I was in bands and it was like something guitarist and all that.
Right.
And one day I was just like making puns with some of my friends, and that got me thinking. I'm like, okay, I'm going to try something with Steve in it. And I was just making a bunch of things, doing paintings and drawings, and I was like, Creativisteve, and then it just stuck. And,
okay. Because honestly, every single time that I looked at it, I'm just like, I have no idea how to pronounce this.
But that's what I kind of wanted. A lot of people think it's just Creative Steve or just like however they say it is the right way to say it. Because with the internet now, everybody's got their different handles, and you see like on different sites like Reddit and stuff. I don't know how to say most of them.
Yeah, that's fair.
Because you're just so used to seeing them. So as long as people see it and they can recognize it just by seeing it, then that's all that matters, really.
Yeah, well, what you have also on your Instagram is your icon. Your picture is of your art, and
yes,
it's a really distinctive style. So I think people will be able to recognize that when they see you, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And so what's really cool about what you do is that you sort of have like this, your very own unique style. What I really like about your paintings is that you have sort of like this, it's very clean, but it's also really messy at the same time, Like I was talking to you about your dinosaur that you had earlier, right?
Oh, yeah. Actually, that's a great way to put it, clean and messy. It's like a very organized chaos. It's a very on purpose mess,
Okay.
like... that's kind of how I treat a lot of things in my life.
Yeah.
It has its purpose, but it doesn't bother me. And what bothers me is when everything's too perfect. So it's like just putting it all into a pile, but it's my pile, and that's where it's going to stay.
Yeah.
And so I treat my paintings the same way.
Well, it's an extension of yourself, right?
Oh,
that's what
100%.
artists are really all about. It's about basically creating the world around you with your own two hands.
Oh,
you know?
yeah. 100%.
Yeah, and so I really like that. So, okay, let's get back to where it all started from.
Okay.
So, have you been painting your entire life?
No, actually, I didn't start painting until about 4 years ago.
Okay.
A girlfriend at the time had some extra paint supplies, and she just brought them over, and she'd never used them. And I was like, hey, I'll give this a shot. And so I did like a Doctor Who painting, and it was a Dalek, or whatever, if anybody knows what a Dalek is. But I did it, and I was hooked from day one. And I was just like, okay, I'll try another one. So that week, I ended up actually doing like 7 or 8 paintings. And I was like, okay. And it was super fun. And then I stopped for a bit, and then I started getting back into it just slowly when I would have some time. And then, all of a sudden, I started doing it every day when I hit a really low point.
Okay.
Like, I broke up with her, ended up driving all the way to Yellowknife, stayed with my friend for a bit, and then I moved back to Saskatchewan, where I'm originally from, and I just hit it hard. I didn't have a TV or anything. I was basically living out of my car. So when I got into an apartment, I didn't have anything, and so I would just go to the dollar store and get whatever I could, and I'd just pick up some cheap paints, and it was my entertainment. It was how I entertained myself, and I just put my thoughts onto old cardboard and just tried to make things funny, surrounded by such like desperation. It was like, oh, I'm living the real artist lifestyle, and then it's like, the real artist lifestyle sucks. But the paintings just kept coming, and it was my way around it. And I just, before I knew it, I looked back, and it had been like a few months, and I'd done something every day. Yeah. And then when I wasn't doing it, I felt weird. It
became a part of you.
Oh, yeah, like I couldn't stop. And with the days that I wasn't doing it, I felt this drive to keep going with it. Yeah. Because every time I did one, I'd learn something new about myself. Like I didn't have anybody showing me. I didn't have any like, I wasn't taking art classes. I wasn't doing anything like that. It was just hey, what can I paint today? And somebody would say something funny, or they remind me of an old TV show. So I did a lot of like characters and, just weird stuff from the 90s. And I really like those colors. And so I just started doing that. And then I got into Sharpie art because like keep buying paints was getting expensive. So I was like, okay, well, I'll just buy a bunch of markers. And I did that for a while. And I really started exploring colors and how to put them together and seeing old characters in new ways. Like one of my favorite ones that I did was like Inspector Gadget.
Yeah.
And that one, people like, I also made the decision to post everything I did. Mm-hmm. It was like, I didn't want to shy away from mistakes.
Yeah. Okay. That's very good because honestly, mistakes are important for anybody.
100%.
Yeah. And how far into that 4 years ago did you start posting everything?
Right from the get-go.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I was a big proponent of social media.
Yeah.
I really like the idea of being able to archive what I was doing. Because I moved a lot. Like, even as a kid, my family moved a lot. And so there was a lot of times I lost things. I didn't have some of my old drawings or stuff like that. They just get lost in moves. And over time, you just forget where you put things. But with the digital era that we're in now, I was like, okay, now even if I lose it, I'll still have that image that I can look back at.
Yeah.
And so it wasn't even necessarily that I was showing other people. It was that I had a place to put everything.
Yeah.
And so I would just do it every day. And then when people started recognizing it, then the thought came into my head. It's like, well, what if I post something that's not good?
Yeah.
And then I was like, well, how do I know if it's good or not?
Yeah,
right?
It's subjective.
It's all subjective. And I had to really break down this mental block of just because you post something that you might not like or has a lot of mistakes doesn't really have any effect on what you're capable of doing.
Yeah.
Right? Like, just because you suck now doesn't mean 5 years down the road you're going to still suck.
I love that.
Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And then, if anything, it makes those ones that are more vulnerable even more important, because when you do hit that point 5 years down the road and you're still doing it, and you can look back at those and you're like, man, I have made a difference. But if you start good and stay good, then there's no growth, and you don't gain anything from being good all the time.
Right.
And that's why I love using lots of colors and trying different things, because I think David Bowie said once, he's like, you can't discover anything new until you dive into like the darkness, something like that.
Yeah.
He's like, you can't learn to swim until your toes don't touch the bottom anymore. You
right.
know, like that kind of idea. And so, yeah, it might suck, but that's the only way you're going to find the new things. And new things are what push you forward, and you grow, and you start to incorporate all of these mistakes. Actually, it's funny, talking about mistakes, is that that's how I got to the style I am now.
Yeah.
Where it was like, I would fuck up on something and be like, oh, why'd I do that? But I just keep going. I just keep going, and I'd finish it. And then I'd look at it and be like, man, that's the best part of this thing. And then I was like, I have to do that again. And so then you start taking in all these mistakes, and I realized you were the only person who can make those mistakes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so if you just incorporate all of your mistakes, then nobody else will ever be able to do it, because it's you made that mistake, and mistakes are so random and so unique that it becomes your style.
Yeah, exactly. So you've really grown it from just like sort of just doing like pop stuff into actually, well, you're really like you're actually like really honing it now, you know?
Yeah.
You're really honing it now and making some like pieces that are actually selling online as well.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
That's the craziest part.
Yeah.
Like when I set out, I never thought that I'd go from cut up cereal boxes to 5 feet canvases that people are wanting to actually pay me money for.
Yeah.
It was, I always wanted to be a musician.
Yeah.
Right? I was like, I want to play guitar, and I'm going to be a rock star. And I did play in bands and stuff, and I did that, and I played the shows. And then I realized that it was like, I was creating in a different way, but it wasn't something that, I don't know, it didn't hit me as hard as when I started painting. I still love music. I still like doing that, and it's a different kind of outlet. But when painting came around in my life, it was just like something that took me into a whole nother level of exploring my own. I won't say inner demons because I don't believe in that. I believe that it's just your own experience, right?
Yeah.
And there's no right or wrong to it. And so I would just force myself to finish. And then it was like, okay, I'm marking that point in my life. And it just turns out I was marking every single day.
Yeah, there you
know?
go. Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
And that's what the beauty of like, that's kind of the weird thing. It's like when it comes to like art, I find at least a lot of the people that I look up to in the art that I do myself,
Yep.
I just find that a lot of the greatest stuff that seems to come is it all always stems from like pain. It always stems from like your discomfort from being in like the environment that you're in or the experiences that you had, and so like you seem to be a proponent of that too, right?
Oh
like,
yeah, I love pain.
yeah.
I really do. I don't differentiate it from pleasure, right?
Yeah.
I think it's something that your body reacts to different stimulus, and whether that's good or bad, it's up to people. Some people love pain, like love pain, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
then some people love pleasure, and they love certain things. Like there are some artists out there that will get themselves stimulated in different ways, right? Like you get the people who will do a lot of drugs, right? And then they'll paint, or they'll do their music, or you get other people who will like go for a run and then they paint, and then, or you have the other people who will like depress themselves, shut out all the lights and go into the dark and get themselves into a really dark place and try to transfer that onto the canvas. For myself, I sometimes use pain, sometimes use whatever, but I think the big thing I've been getting into lately is the moment.
Yeah.
And not being afraid to just be normal. And I know normal is thrown around a lot, like nobody's really normal, but on days when you're not feeling special,
Yeah.
I find those are the most important days to create, because a lot of people have those days where they don't feel special, they don't feel like they're out of the ordinary, that they don't feel like they're aspiring to anything greater than themselves. But the realization I came to is, in your life, there is nothing greater than yourself.
Yeah.
Right? And not necessarily as like a self-centered, narcissistic kind of thing. It can sound like that, but it's more like you are with you until you die.
Yeah. Oh yeah. 100%. Yeah.
And so ignoring those normal days is a detriment to your art. So if you can get up and create on days you feel bad and create on days you feel good, and on days that you don't feel anything, then you're going to start making some traction, right? You're going to start moving forward. I know some people love to just only paint when they're feeling good. A lot of people use this excuse like, I don't feel like it.
Yeah.
I don't feel like it. Well, why do you have to feel a certain way?
Yeah.
You're still just using physical movements to create something.
True.
If you you think NFL players, I don't feel like practicing today. No, they know that regardless of how they feel, it's physical movements that are going to get them moving and creating.
Yeah.
Just like any athlete or artist, it's all the same thing. If you're a carpenter, when you physically move your body, you are putting energy out into the world.
Yeah, of course. And you're exercising that, right? You're exercising and practicing your skill set and just sort of like engaging your brain in a way that otherwise doesn't get engaged, right?
100%.
The things that you do in your day-to-day life doesn't engage your brain the same way that painting does, or making music, or other forms of art. So it's just like, it's a way to get those neural pathways just sort of like working, and all the blood flowing through them, and electricity and everything,
Exactly. We are creative beings.
Yeah.
That is the difference between us and animals.
Yeah.
Like, we are animals, but we're the only animals that create. We go out of our way to create. And it's not even necessarily that we're trying to leave an impact. It's something that I think is a given with every person, where we are born into a world where humans just make things.
Yeah.
And they can be physical things that you can touch, or they can be as vague as family. People will create families, or they will create community, or they'll create a sense of being in a larger community. And there's so many different mediums that you can use to do that. I just chose painting for now, I guess.
Yeah.
But it's something that we have to tap into if we're going to feel any kind of satisfaction in our life. And some people take that as going for money or job, career kind of stuff, right? They find that they can create a business. They can create that value through financials, which I have nothing against, right?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, some people think that just because somebody's going for money with whatever it is that they're doing, that they think that, oh, why are you doing that? You're selling out. Like, I work regular jobs. You go out there and you work a regular job. You're selling out doing that because you're selling your time for somebody else's purposes.
Yeah.
And if you can step back and realize that is all we do, we're creative beings, and our whole system of existing is based off of what can you do, and you earn value for that.
Yeah, of course.
So if you're creating something that you want to create, then you're creating your own value. And that's subjective. And it's good that way, because then however much you work at it, you're going to create that much value.
Of course. And the thing, though, too, is that people don't understand, or they just, I don't know, it doesn't seem to click in them. But, like, honestly, I fucking hate it when people talk about, oh, you're selling out. Because the thing is, you're living your passions, and people are actually paying you for you to live your passions. They just see you as they see an extraordinarily good job that you're doing, and they like the unique qualities that you bring to it. So for them to say, oh, you're selling out, is them being, they're reflecting their negativity about themselves onto you. They're clearly unhappy about something about their own lives, whether it be, I'm not doing my own thing, I'm not passionate enough to have my own thing. That they start to say when other people are sort of like doing it, but besides them, then they'll be like, "Oh, you're a sellout, man." But fuck them. That's the worst type of. Those are the worst type of people, man.
I hate that stuff, and it's rampant in artistic communities.
Yeah.
That's why I kind of stay outside of it. I do my own thing, and I feel that there's like a lot of good people who don't think that way, but it's still very common. And I'd like to think of it like, if you have a lot of friends, but none of your friends are funny. Yeah. Well, you're probably going to be more likely to go pay a comedian. Yeah. Right? Yeah. Because you're not getting that satisfaction of humor in your life. So comedians make money because there's this gap where people who don't necessarily even have friends love to watch people make them laugh and give them some sort of sense of humor about their own day-to-day life, right? Yeah. So comedians fill that role. Artists who paint, like myself, people like seeing things in a different way. Novelty is huge. Like, that's what keeps humans going, right? Novelty, what's new, and that's with social media. That's why there's so much content. Because we're filling our brains with all this new content. Things die off quicker because we've seen it already, right? Yeah, of course. So you're filling this visual gap of needing to see something new. Yeah. And so I think where we're headed with this, especially with the Photoshop and all of these new ways to create art and to do it quickly, is that you see it in memes a lot, the dank memes especially, where it doesn't matter if it's good, and it doesn't matter the quality of it. It just matters whether it's new. Yeah. Well, I kind of disagree on that, just only because there's so many memes that are recycled. The only thing that's different is literally just the face of the meme. Right. Like let's say, for example, the Drake meme, where Hotline Bling. Like, that's literally the same meme as the car going into the exit meme. Right. Right? Yeah. Oh, yeah. The ideas are old ideas. Yeah. Right? What I mean is, like, the actual visual. Oh, yeah. Right? Yeah. That's all you're changing. Because, like, really, when it comes down to it, there's very few archetypes of what we know. Yeah. There's, you have your, like, old religious symbols and stuff that come into everything. And so you have these basic ideas that anybody can relate to. And I think memes are really good for that, in the sense that it transcends just regular conversation where it's like you can understand somebody on a whole other level.
Yeah.
Whereas like, and it could be made by some 12-year-old kid, right?
Yeah,
And
true.
I'm 100% sure that some of the funniest things I've seen were done by little kids just on their computer somewhere.
Yeah.
And have no idea that they're just some kid. You
Yeah.
know?
Oh,
He's
yeah.
probably like in grade 6 on his phone. His teacher's like, "What are you doing on your phone?" And he's just making some meme, and then it goes friggin' viral, and
Yeah.
everybody's laughing their asses off at it.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's a new artistic medium.
It is, which is crazy.
Yeah.
And the thing is, like, people sometimes want to fucking push the boundaries so much
Oh, yeah.
that they'll go onto the internet, they'll go onto Photoshop and like do some new shit that they've never ever seen done anywhere else. And it like unlocks a new sort of like phase in you know, meme culture or
Yeah.
art culture or whatever. You know, it's crazy the things that you can do to express yourself. And sometimes it just gets so like so meta, you know,
Oh,
like
yeah.
they start to get so self-referential, and it's almost like
Yeah.
it's like there's an unironic irony to it.
Yes.
And it's like it like flips back and forth between
Yes.
irony and you know, and unironic humor too, and it's just like sometimes
Yeah.
it's so fucking crazy.
It's like a new language.
Yeah.
And the way people use it, and even in like conversations with my friends now.
Yeah.
Like I'm turning 29 this year,
Yeah.
but even in my age group, GIFs and pictures and these memes, sometimes I'll have full conversations without saying a real word.
Yeah.
Where it's just like, send a funny picture, they send a GIF back, I send another GIF back, and it's just these reactions, but you both get it just because of this language. And
Right.
it's something you can't do
Yeah.
in real life. You can't do it.
Yeah.
And so it's this deeper understanding that we all have. And I think that for myself, with the kind of paintings that I'm doing,
Yeah.
I'd like to just base it off of these basic ideas that anybody can get. And that's why I like painting animals. I've done a lot of animals or old characters, where it's something that you don't even have to explain it. You just show it and people get it.
Yeah, that's the beauty of art and all that stuff, because it's just another form of communication.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And however you enjoy communicating will be your best way to communicate.
Yeah.
Right? Like some people love communicating through music, and the more that they love it, the easier it is to understand their music.
Yeah.
Right? Like you get people like Tom York from Radiohead. Right? That's his way of communicating. I bet if you talk to him in real life, there'd be a disconnect, right? Because you're so used to how he talks to you through his music that it'd be weird hearing him talk in a different medium.
Well, the thing is, because you create this like poster, this representation of what that person might be like,
Yep.
right? And then when you meet them in real life, they aren't exactly what you expected.
Right.
And that's why some people say you shouldn't meet your idols, but I personally disagree.
I think you should. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think that's important, because then you get the multifaceted view of them.
Yeah.
And then it's the only people who don't like to meet their idols hold them on a pedestal.
Right,
And
exactly.
don't realize that they're just humans. If anything, I'd find them way more interesting if they don't match up.
Yeah, exactly. Because, well, I find it really interesting because I've met quite a few people that I really look up to, right?
Yeah, sweet.
And I find that when I meet them and I just see that they're another person,
Yeah.
it's like it's just another person. They just got to a point where their hard work has paid off,
Yeah.
you know? And I love that. You know, like sometimes I find when I see that person that I've been like looking up to and looking at their pictures and their videos, when we see it on a computer screen, it's all two-dimensional, right? But
Yeah.
when you see them in real life, though, and you see the 3 dimensions of them, it's like, it's honestly really mind-blowing.
Yeah,
and I didn't
totally.
expect it,
Yep.
but it's so crazy. I'm like, am I really talking to this person? But you are,
Yeah,
you know?
exactly. And like you said with the two-dimensional thing, playing with that with social media can be really fun. And I know that you've liked to incorporate the entrepreneurship stuff as well as the arts here in Kelowna.
Yeah.
It's this idea that you can create your persona of how you want to interact with the general public, right? And rock stars have been doing this for a long time.
Oh, yeah.
Political figures have been doing it forever.
Yeah.
Right? But now anybody can do it
Yeah.
on as big a scale as you want.
Yeah.
The internet has no limits.
Yeah.
So it's like, if you have something that relates to people, it will just shoot off into the stratosphere.
Yeah.
So thinking ahead and being like, okay, how do I want to present myself to the public? How do I want to incorporate my personal ideas in a way that I'll get certain reactions, right? So I was kind of telling you about this earlier, like posting prices for art. I know other artists who will be listening to this probably have gone through the same thing. What do you charge? Like, how do you even put a price on something that you spent all this time, and maybe some took less time, but you feel like you did better on it? And it's like, okay, well, it only took me an hour, but it's probably my best piece. How do I find a value to put on that in the sense of money? So with social media and this two-dimensional thing, and people who have no idea who you are except for that first initial reaction to your post.
Yeah.
Well, you have the image, you have the caption, you have the comments, and you have your hashtags, and you have your logo and your handle, right? So all of those things play into that initial thing. And so a couple of the paintings I did, I put ridiculous prices on them.
Yeah.
And I did it because I'd seen other artists who have hundreds of thousands of followers, right?
Yeah.
And they'll put their prices on it, and it's normal.
Yeah.
It's normal to have these ridiculous prices. But just because of this illusion of value in how many people follow them or how many likes they get on the whatever page, they can post it and it becomes normalized. So I just took that concept and it's like, okay, if they're seeing me for the first time, they don't know anything about me. They have no idea if I'm successful or not. And they have no idea whether they even like me or they don't have an opinion yet.
Yeah.
So if the first thing they see about me is I do this big ass elephant painting that's all super colorful.
Yeah.
And I say $42,000. Well, that's their initial reaction. Now their brain starts working in the sense that, okay, there's a painting, the price is $42,000, and then whether they disagree with that price doesn't matter.
No, yeah.
Now the only thing they know about you is that you've put yourself in the category of selling $42,000 paintings. And so you get this initial reaction and it just takes off because then people see that, and whether they think you're stupid for it or whether they love it, and it doesn't matter. You created that reaction and now people are liking it or commenting on it, hating it, doesn't matter. It boosts your post.
Yeah,
right?
right.
And that's exactly like what Trump does and all these other people, right? They just hit at this point where it doesn't matter if they agree with you. It's that you cause them to think something different.
Yeah.
And so then it boosts that post. It's like how our brains work naturally.
And the thing is, that couldn't be more true now because because people have been saying this for decades, but any publicity is good publicity, you know? And like people post shitty stuff all the time.
Yep.
And the people that get the most amount of like, the people that unfortunately have the loudest voices are the people that cause them to stir the most amount of shit, you know? Like
meme pages, man.
Yeah, like, you know, think about how many people talk about like, oh man, did you hear about this really shitty thing that happened?
Yeah.
You know, like, oh, I can't believe what Kanye West said, or I can't believe what Donald Trump said, you know, versus, oh, that person did a great job, you know, let's talk about that. Humans don't work like that.
Right.
You know, which is fucked up.
Yep.
That's crazy. So what you did is really smart, honestly, like, because you got people talking, you know, you got people to pay attention, to be like, look at this fucking guy, $42,000.
Yeah, exactly.
But I love it though. It totally sets you apart from everybody else.
Yeah.
You know, if you walk into a room full of people and everybody, like all these like art people are sort of going like, yeah, $50 for this, $150 for that, blah, blah, blah. And you're like, 42,000.
Yeah.
You have the loudest voice.
Yeah, and exactly. And then you realize that the value doesn't come in when somebody buys the painting.
Yeah.
The value comes in at a first moment when everybody now knows about the painting.
Yeah.
And it's a technique that I came up with because of Andy Warhol. We were talking about him earlier today. Warhol, everybody knows which painting.
The soup, Campbell's
soup can.
Yeah.
Exactly. And the whole idea behind that, which is why it's amazing, is not so much that the painting itself is amazing. It's how he set it up to present it for the first time. So what he did was the gallery, he held his own gallery exhibit in his warehouse, I believe. And what he did was he created a mini grocery store. So he had like all these shelves, and he hand painted tons of actual soup cans.
What?
Yeah. So he hand painted, like, I think it was like thousands of these cans, and he made like a whole grocery store, right? So what he did was he sold each of those cans for $6 each. So those were super cheap. So you could get a hand painted Andy Warhol can at the time for $6. But he also had hanging on the wall the one painting of the Campbell soup can, which was really big, and he put the price tag of $15,000. So everything else was only $6. So he created this huge jump. So when people came in, it's like, this thing is worth $6. This thing's worth $6. I get it. Everything's worth $6.
Yeah.
And then you have the size difference. They look up at this giant soup can and it says $15,000. In people's brains, it makes sense. This little thing is $6. This giant thing is $15,000. And so it just clicked. And so people were coming in, they might not have $15,000, but now they believe the value of that painting is $15,000 when really it might have cost them a couple $100 to make.
Damn. Yeah. Okay, I get it. I get it. Yeah.
And so then he invites a bunch of people. He's in New York. There's a lot of, like, at the time he was doing advertisements, like drawing advertisements, right?
Yeah.
So he knew some people in the art world. Bring out some people in the art world.
Yeah.
They think it's friggin' brilliant. All it takes is one rich guy to walk in the door, buys the $15,000 painting to show off. And now, from that moment on, every single painting he does is worth at least 15 grand because he just set himself up into that category.
Woo.
Right? Because
Yeah.
if I go and sell a painting right now at $150,
Yeah.
and people like who have it hanging on the wall, and somebody's like, "Oh, how much did you get that for?" $150. Well, I'm at the $150 category, right? But if you can get yourself into the point where it's like attaching a new value based off of relative value,
Yeah.
then you can make the jump.
Yeah.
Right? So you take whatever it is that you're putting out there, whatever content that it is, it doesn't matter if it's painting or if it's podcasts or if whatever, you take that content and you branch out here and there
Yeah.
into bigger, more extreme things. So say you have this podcast for a while and it's like, well, I'm going to do a documentary.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a one-time thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, now all of those podcasts, yeah, sure, maybe they were at the certain level of, you know, you get your following and you get a certain amount of value out of that.
Yeah.
But because you did all those little ones,
Yeah.
the relative value of that one thing that you branch out into has now shot through the roof.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay. I get
Right?
you. Yeah, yeah.
And so then you get that value, then you have more resources to work with because the value of that one covers for the next 6 months or
Right.
whatever, right? However
Yeah.
much it turns out to be. And it's not, I'm not talking even money. I'm talking like value that people put on it in the internet, likes and
Just
stuff.
inherent value.
Inherent value,
Yeah.
right? And then all of a sudden, instead of just all these little things, your new level of little things are these things that you've branched out into.
Yeah.
So maybe now you're doing documentaries every 6 months,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
And then you do the podcast, and that keeps that value at like your gold standard, right? You have your podcast. Joe Rogan does this, right?
Yeah.
So now he gets paid $30,000 to go talk, right?
Yeah.
Because he's going to physically do it. But he has to do those daily podcasts in order to keep that value there.
Right.
And so then if he's going and talking for 30 grand every day, like Tony Robbins does, I'm sure you've heard of Tony Robbins.
I've heard
the
it, yeah.
motivational speaker guy. Well, his value now is at this level because he's out there getting paid that much every single day.
Yeah.
So when he branches out to do like a big arena event,
Yeah.
now he's making whatever. And that extends his value even further.
Yeah.
So he keeps doing the small seminars, which are bigger than his little talks.
Mm-hmm.
And that's his new gold standard
Shit.
to keep that value high, right?
Yeah.
And so then when he does something big, it's huge. And that just keeps it going. And then all of a sudden, Tony Robbins figures out, well, he can do those huge arena things all the time. So he had to work at that little thing, right? He was talking to like 3 or 4 people at a time when he first started. He was
Yeah.
28 years old.
Yeah.
Started talking to people, whoever would listen. And he would just talk about his ideas. And then it just built. And so 3 or 4 people might not seem like much. But if you're talking to 3 or 4 people every single day for a month, you know, That's almost 100 people. And then all those people are like, oh, what'd you do today? They tell their family, they tell their friends, oh yeah, I went to this talk with the Tony Robbins guy. And then it spreads like wildfire. And now he can choose to do whatever project he wants. He's created unlimited potential for what he wants to do creatively. And that just so happens to be helping other people. And so it's like, you take that concept with whatever you're creating and you keep a consistent value, right? Not all of my paintings sell. I don't care. But if I can show I'm doing it every day, you keep that consistent value. And then the ones that do sell, right? Then all of a sudden you make that jump into the next thing. A lot of people think you just go overnight and you just jump to the top. But it's about creating consistent value. And the more value you get out of that bottom level, the more often you'll be able to create a higher level of quality content.
Right.
And then you just keep moving up in steps.
Yeah.
So like for myself, my plan is I do paintings every day, but I'm going to jump into bigger paintings. Right?
Yeah.
Murals. And I want to do those more often. And then you set that standard.
Yeah.
They're like, murals are my thing or something like that. And then all of a sudden it's like gallery showings. And then you just keep going up one at a time. And then every time you do something, even if you sit down to do one of your daily things, now that daily thing, the value has jumped way up.
True, because of everything else that you've done over top of that.
Exactly.
So speaking of doing bigger things, you're literally leaving your job, you're leaving Kelowna, you're moving on to go on the road.
I'm going to prove this
theory. Okay, so explain what you're doing.
So right now, I've been working a regular job, working as a cook in a kitchen.
Yeah.
I'm not ashamed to say that. A lot of people are out there working super hard in regular jobs. I just came to a point in my life where that's my worst case scenario. And it's not even bad. My worst case scenario is having a pretty good job, doing something that I don't mind doing, and making money that way and paying my bills.
Right.
If that's the worst it's going to get, then why not go for it? So my plan is, in a few days, I'm actually getting in my car. I'm taking my easel, and I'm taking paint and some clothes, and probably a cooler full of food and drinks, and I'm going to just start traveling across Canada, city to city. I'm going to try to meet as many artists as I can, talk to them about my ideas, and, go see galleries, but leaving it open. I don't really have a plan for the projects I'm going to do. The whole thing is a project. The whole thing is an art piece, because I believe that you create that value every day just by getting up and doing it, regardless of how you feel, like I was saying earlier.
Yeah, fuck yeah.
And so I'm just going to be in my car, and I'm going to start doing a podcast out of my car. I haven't come up with a name for it. If you think of something, let me know.
Sorry, For the Culture is taken.
It'll probably be like Steve in his car or something stupid. But
hey, man.
Whatever works.
Yeah.
And also posting to my Instagram like I already do. But also creating wherever I go and using these new experiences. And I'm just going to be saturating myself with new information outside of the realm of the internet. So you see a lot of these people who do their travel Instagrams and they do all this stuff, right?
Yeah.
They're still only posting the things that they think people want to see.
Yeah.
Right? But my idea is, if you take these basic things like being completely open with the people, right? Being vulnerable in the sense of like, I'm doing this with no money, right? Like I'm taking my next check and I'm going, like, that's it. I haven't saved up for this. This is like, I'm just waiting to get paid. And then whatever I can do with that gas money, I'm going to go to another place, because I believe in my abilities to create. Whether it's good or not, that's up to the people. But I know that when you put time and effort into something, you're creating value. And sure, that value might not be millions of dollars. But if you're creating enough value that people want to see you succeed, or at least feed you for a day, and you're putting the trust out there that people are just genuinely good over, and instead of like people are just generally bad, I don't believe that. I think people want to see things created. And so I'm going to go out there and prove this in the sense that I'm going to be creating every day.
Right.
And I'm going to be building a new standard of what the quality is and what the value of my content is.
Yeah.
And documenting it all through social media. And getting to paint along the way, which I love to do.
Yeah.
And so it's not necessarily that it's like, oh, I'm going to be a starving artist, I'm going to do that. It's, I'm already starving, right? And it's the thing that I need to eat is my passion feeds me every day. And that's what I'm hungry for.
Yeah.
And it's going to stay there regardless. And I find it way more interesting to see the change that happens in myself as I go and take the chance on my abilities and to take the chance on people in general and just see where it leads. That's what I'm excited for.
Yeah.
And to show everybody while I'm doing it.
Yeah, of course. And I think that's really, really sort of like, obviously ambitious. That's very ambitious. Yeah. But I think those types of chances are, to jump into things that scare you the most. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know how afraid you are of this.
Terrified.
But the thing is that when you jump in the pit of fear, sometimes you walk out of it a much bigger, stronger person by dealing with the things that, challenge you. So I think what you're doing is very, very cool. And I think I wouldn't recommend it to everybody. Yeah. But since you seem so certain about it.
Oh, yeah.
And honestly, I mean, you were telling me, off microphone before this podcast that you've been thinking about doing this for about a year or so now. So you've clearly put a lot of thought into
definitely.
it. And honestly, it's going to be an incredible story, and we're all going to witness it. We're all going to see your podcast come up, your thoughts, your photos, your pictures, everything up on Instagram, on YouTube, all that stuff. And I'm honestly really looking forward to it because I think to take your life and use it to do exactly what you want to do, just by your instincts.
Yes.
I think it's super fucking cool, man. Thanks, I think it's so great. I think it's so great that you're doing that because I don't know that many people that just fucking up and go like that.
You don't see it very often. I've had to do it before, but not even for good reasons, right? Like I've just had, I've had my fair share of hits. You take your hits and you keep going. I'm still here, man. Yeah. I've gone. Played on stages in front of thousands of people. And then a couple months later, I'm living out of my car because my girlfriend just didn't want me living there anymore, right? Yeah. So it's like things can change like that, and you have no choice over the matter. But the only choice you do have is, well, I could give up.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Right? I could give up and I'd be like, I guess this is it.
Yeah.
It's like, but then that's all it is. And it's like, I like having that out. People talk about suicide, and there's a lot of suicidal artists out there. But I don't think that's a detriment. I think a lot of people are scared of that, and it's like, no, I use that as a tool for my own well-being. It's that, I could do that. Am I going to? No, because I know I've got one more day to create something, and maybe today will be the thing that is like, or I create something, and maybe it's not that masterpiece piece. But I made that. And nobody else could have made that because I had to be here in these circumstances right now, no matter how shitty they are, in order to create this. And people see that, and that's where the value comes in. And that's something that you can't even explain. You just have to see it. And in order to see it, you have to create it.
Yeah.
And that's why I love how I came across Creativisteve, because it's just like, that's all it's about. I might change from painting into something else or, whatever comes up, but it's going to be creating it and just embracing the idea of being a human being where all we do is create. And doing something that only you can do because only you can do what you do.
Exactly. And you're following instincts. And we were talking about this earlier. We follow our instincts the same way that we follow it to breathe, to eat, to sleep. We just do that to create as well.
Exactly.
And you're following it, which is a very important thing for our mentality, Yep.
People are creating every day whether they want to or not, whether they even think they are or not.
True.
And what they're doing is maintaining what they've created. So they create a little bit here, they create a little bit there. And when things come in to change that, they don't like things messing with their creations. Yeah. Regardless of whether their creation sucks or not. And the main creation we're doing is creating our reality. Right. And a lot of people's reality in this day and age, and all time, sucks for a lot of people. But I think it's because they haven't realized that, or not yet at least, that when you're creating, you get to make the decision on what your reality is.
Yeah.
And some people are abusing this. You see it in propaganda, and you see it. They're creating realities for people, and people don't like change, so they just accept it. I'm creating my own reality, and the reality is that I want to create every day. So it's like a self-feeding thing. So
Yeah,
it is. It's already a success just by doing it,
and it's a wonderful sort of like cycle that you live that way because you never stop.
Yeah,
yeah, and I love that
until you stop breathing, right?
Exactly,
and even then. Your body goes into the ground and then it feeds some animals and it continues on creating, right? It's all the cycle. And it just comes back around. So I say embrace it. Embrace it and just dive in. And a lot of people are like, man, you're crazy. But like they're excited, but they're coming out of the woodworks now like, holy shit, you're doing this? You're doing this? And then a lot of people are like, even in that, I know for the business people out there who are listening.
Yeah.
The value of my paintings now, just in the past couple of weeks since I've announced that I'm doing this, has shot up.
Yeah.
Just because of the potential for the future. Mm-hmm. And that's what the whole stock market's based on, right? The potential for your future capabilities or whatever you end up doing. And by making a decision and committing to it, like how you're doing with this podcast, which is awesome.
Thank you.
You're committing to this idea that has all this future potential. Mm-hmm. And the every time you do it, the more stable it becomes and the more value is going to come from that. Mm-hmm. And so making these announcements or coming up with other ideas to branch out will boost your value.
Oh, yeah, 100%. Oh, yeah.
Every time you do it, right?
Yeah.
And I'm excited to see where you go with this. Because,
Thank you.
I think it's a really cool idea.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for reaching out to me.
Of course, dude. I honestly, like, when Erica, my girlfriend, mentioned you, I was like, yo, that sounds like a very good person to have on our podcast, especially since, he's leaving so soon.
Yeah.
And I just kept thinking, like, why is he leaving? Where is he going? Is he going on, like, vacation 2 weeks? Like, but now I've really found out, no, you got, like, a big adventure to embark on.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
I think it'd be really cool, I think it's going to be awesome, and I can't wait to see...
I'll have to come back.
Yeah, no, honestly, like, you should. Like, whenever you find your way back into Kelowna, we'll have, like, maybe an update episode.
Sure. Put on a show.
Yeah, totally. So, where can everybody find you?
Creativisteve on Instagram.
How do you spell that?
Creativisteve.
Perfect.
You can also find it on Facebook. I have a Facebook page, and I pretty much just link all of the Instagram posts to Facebook, so it just does it automatically. I'm not super active on Facebook, but you can still but you can still find it. And I know that there's a lot of people who are just like, they just like using Facebook. It's easy. They talk to their families and that's it.
Yeah.
So it's a good way to get in there. So if people are listening, definitely still use Facebook because they own Instagram.
Yeah. Oh,
and the Facebook algorithms are where all this stuff comes from. So the more that you just give into it a little bit, don't let it eat you, but just understand how it works. It will only help in any other social media platform because they're going to buy up Snapchat too. They're going to buy up all that stuff. Instagram is going to be the thing. Like,
pretty much is.
It already is.
Like, goddamn, like Snapchat. Like, come on, man, I don't use that shit anymore.
No, exactly. And it's just, how do you want to present yourself? And Instagram's the way to go. And so you can find me on there. And for anybody listening, you can message me. You can direct message me. I do answer my DMs. I'm not one of those people who's like, I'm too good to answer people.
Yeah.
I have right on my bio right there right now is send me your best and worst memes. I love that shit. I think it's funny. I just want to meet people, like how you said of meeting your idols. You find them in a new way, and it's exciting to see them in that three-dimensional thing. And I think the new 3 dimensions are these online conversations through memes and whatnot. So I get to see people's personalities and just talk about art and gain a wider perspective on everything.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Steve, for being on here. I appreciate it, man.
Anytime.
This was For the Culture, the center point of art and entrepreneurship. Make sure you drop us a follow on Instagram and on our SoundCloud link as well. Drop a follow so you always are up to date on what's coming up next. And actually, just to drop a little secret for you, I don't ever tell anybody this, but I always actually upload the episode the preceding night before, just only so that way, when it's ready to post at 8 a.m. the following morning on my Instagram. It's already there to go. So if you want to be like the first people, drop us a fucking follow, man, because like you can be on the know-how before everybody else. So anyway, that's it. Thank you for listening. Have a good rest of your day.